Hello. So, I recently finished the Jennifer L. Armentrout's From Blood and Ash series, and I absolutely adored it like a million times more than I ever thought I would, and so we're going to talk about that today. So what I plan to do with this video is to just talk about what I want to talk about with it. Like, I have been lesson planning and getting my classroom ready, and I don't really have it in me to like sit down and think up something intelligent to say, so I'm just gonna talk at a camera because I want to. These are my dogs. They usually make appearances. So this series is about a girl named Poppy who is the maiden, a lady in wait in the kingdom of Solace. She has been told that she is going to ascend, and she has been chosen by the gods. In this kingdom, they have puppies. You know better. In this kingdom, they have lords and ladies in wait who have essentially they get to ascend into longer living immortal beings because they, as like the second born sons and daughters, have been chosen by the gods in order to ascend. This book all starts when they believe that somebody is trying to murder Poppy. She ends up being guarded by a boy named Hawk. They develop a romance while also she starts learning a lot more about the world, about just a lot of things that are happening, and she gets closer to Hawk, and shit goes down. I feel like that is not necessarily the best description. However, a lot of what happens in the subsequent books relies on a lot of plot twists, a lot of big reveals that I don't really think I could necessarily tell you about in the summary. You just need to go and read it. I think that this is a phenomenal series. Romantasy typically doesn't work for me. Like, I've tried it. I don't want to be a hater on it, but I'm like a soft hater on it, but I don't want to because like clearly it's popular. I want people to like what they like, but I've like tried ACOTAR. I've like did not like it. I tried Fourth Wing, definitely didn't like it. I've tried some others and it's just not been my genre. However, this one really works for me. So, again, I'm just going to be really excited and talking at you about it, but I'm going to go into spoilers. So, if you have not read any of the books, I would stop here. But because I'm going to be spoiling these books in grave detail, I'm going to put each book on the screen, and when you see the next book, you can know when to bounce off the video, if that makes sense. So, if you have not read the series and don't want to be spoiled, if you don't care, I don't care if you watch further, but you have been warned. So instantly in this world, there are so many things that I really, really liked. I really loved all the lore we were getting around just the world and the magic and just everything that was going on in this story. Every species, every culture of people, all of the creatures within this story, they are vampiric. And what I really like about this is I've only ever read one other series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and it was like an alien romance series in high school. And I did notice even back then that it was like very, very reminiscent of Twilight. And I mean, I didn't have a problem with it back then. I don't know if I would recommend that series now. I definitely wouldn't pick it up now, but I mean, I remember thinking it was fun, and I always thought it was like higher quality Twilight, and I feel like that is present here as well, where she takes a lot of tropes from vampire romances and then kind of just strings them together, like makes them her own, and then they just end up being she just crafts an excellent story around all of this. The characters, I immediately loved Poppy and Castile, or well, Hawke, because who you find out is Prince Castile Denier, who is part of Atlantia, which Solus has gone up against. Poppy spends the majority of the book thinking that Atlantia is the enemy, when obviously it's not really in the way that she thought it was. There's a lot of propaganda by the Queen Ileana of Solus. Yeah, just a whole there are a whole lot of conspiracies essentially happening while their romance is kind of budding. And I think Poppy and Castile are both phenomenal leads. They're my favorite leads from a romantasy. Like, I think the thing that doesn't work about romantasy for me is I don't typically like the characters. Like, at Fourth Wing, I did not like Violet or Xaden. Frankly, I hate Rhysand and Feyre. I do like Throne of Glass, but I don't care for like the main characters necessarily. I like a lot of side characters, and I like the plot in that story. So I think I am such a character-driven reader that romantasy has been hard for me to latch onto. And I'm also just not somebody that likes smut. So even though I was actually pretty invested in their love story, I didn't enjoy any of the sex scenes. That's just me. No shame to you if you like that kind of thing. I don't. In my books, I'm just not a spice person. I skip past it, and I liked that in this series I could, and I didn't really miss anything. So that worked for me. But anyway, like, Poppy and Castile are phenomenal characters. Poppy and Castile are both incredibly traumatized people. Like, obviously Poppy has repressed so many memories because she's just been put into this role her entire life. She's lost who she thinks are her parents in that Craven attack. Everybody sees her for what she is and not who she is, obviously, until she meets Castile. Obviously, she has people like Tawny and Victor who do see her for who she is. But so many people don't, until really Castile does, like, put her in a headspace where she realizes that she can be who she is, and he kind of gives her like a push to go for things in the way that she deserves, is what I'm thinking. And obviously, like, the people that are taking care of her, this Duke and Duchess, Tierman, they suck, and they cane her, they do unspeakable things to her, and she is so resilient and strong. And Jennifer L. Armentrout does such a good job portraying this trauma without making her feel broken, and that's something that's actually a theme in all of these books that I love so much. Like, the people are severely traumatized for entirely legitimate reasons, and they are never shown as broken, but it does not sugarcoat their recovery into getting better. And I think that that's something that this does phenomenally, and that's so apparent with Poppy. But aside from all of that, I love how spitfire-y Poppy is. I love just her general adventurous nature. I do like her general stab first, think second mentality. I think it's really fun. I like how everyone around her likes the stab first, think second mentality that she tends to have. But yeah, and then Castile as well. Like, obviously he was well, I mean, I'll talk about it. I really liked the way he just brought out a different side of Poppy. He, like, let her see that he saw her for who she was. And though it kind of feels undercut by what he was really trying to do the entire time, where I feel like I could feel them really falling in love, and I loved that. But yeah, I'll just talk about it. Obviously, he was playing double agent. His plan was, because Ileana has been keeping his brother captive, his whole plan was to become Poppy's guard so that he could hold her hostage and like hold her for ransom. So the Blood Queen would come for her, and he could get his brother back. And of course, this is also after he was tortured for 50 years, kept at the edge of bloodlust, because again, the Atlanteans are vampiric. But with that also came the reveal that the people of Solis were not actually chosen by the gods when they ascended. They ascended by being drained of all of their blood and then being fed an Atlantean's blood. So that is why you find out that Castile was being held for 50 years, tortured. He had unspeakable things done to him by the Blood Queen, and he was so hurt by all of this. And so that is what had him just trying to get Poppy, and holding her for ransom while he accidentally fell in love with her. I again think that Castile he's just an excellent character as well. Like, he often he's very funny. I would just point that, like, he does things and they're hilarious, and but you do see that there's an element of like him using humor to cope with pain, and I think that was again also very well written. Like, he pretends to be strong all the time, he pretends he's okay, but like him having the capacity to do this to Poppy, even though he didn't actually end up going through with it in the end and actually fell in love with her, also makes him so much more interesting, where he actually has to go and grapple with the fact that, like, yes, Ileana twisted me into something like unrecognizable to myself, and yes, I'm in the middle of this impossible situation just trying to get my brother back, but I had the capacity to do this. And it shows how trauma can shape you, and you watch Castile have to like work through this and then use his trauma to shape him in a positive way, and you see both him and Poppy going through this. Again, I just really like their relationship. I think that they bring the best out of one another. And I also do think that the ending of this book is one of the most badass endings of any book I have ever read, because you have like Poppy and Castile, like everything has been revealed. We know what Solis is doing. We know that they are ascending people and they're not actually chosen by the gods. You know that the people of Solis, they have this right where they thought that they were taking children to go serve the gods, but you never see them again, and you find out that they are actually being slaughtered for the Ascended to feed, because you do find that when the Ascended, they first turn into vampires, they have like no control over their hunger, which requires them to kill children. And then you find out that like Castile is from Atlantia. He's the Prince Castile Denier, which is why he was going by Hawk the entire book. And the Atlanteans were like more naturally vampiric. Like, they don't need to feed to kill. It's just a different society, and you come to find that in the coming books. However, you do find that he was trying to stop this war and to get his brother back from the kingdom, and this is what spurred the whole book to happen. So basically all of this happens. Poppy is still mad at him, very understandably. And then clearly at the end of this book, Jennifer L. Armentrout was probably just told to end it somewhere, because this story is really so complex and has so much to it, that it just ended it with him being like, I have a solution to all of this. We're getting married. And that's the end of the book. And I thought that was the most badass ending of a book I have ever read in my entire life. It was so funny. And that's the other thing about these books. They're hilarious. Like, they have so many running gags that do not stop being funny at all. Like, there's a book in this series called, and it's a diary written by Willa Collins, where essentially she got around and just wrote about her relationships and sexual encounters all in a diary. And when Poppy was the maiden, they told her, you can never read this. So naturally, she had to go and find the book. And Castile found her with it. And, like, it's just, like, the most awkward situation where she's trying to hide the book. And, like, in her head, she's just like, maybe he can't read. And so he, like, realizes that she's trying to hide it from him, and he takes it. And then he just goes, wow, she used a lot of adjectives, didn't she? And the whole scene is just so hilarious that yeah, it's just funny, and it becomes like a running gag that does evolve in the series too, which is also just really fun. Anyway, first book in this series, I think it did an excellent job. I loved it. That's all I have to say. Great start to the series. So the next book was The Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, and I also really loved this book as well. I thought it was just an excellent sequel. I think that this book is pretty much designated for, sorry, my dog's down here, for you to kind of explore more of the world outside of Solis, and you explore a lot of places. You go to a place called Spess's End. You go through woods, like, while they're kind of like going to Atlantia, while Poppy and Castile kind of just work out their issues. She's no longer a prisoner, but she feels like one. She's a fish out of water. He and his best friend Kieran, who is also just a phenomenal character, they sort of just help Poppy through all of that. And again, I would really say that this book is mostly devoted to Poppy and Castile kind of just like working through what happened and like getting to a place where the two of them can move forward together. And I think that's just excellent to me. Another reason that I think I like drag my feet with a lot of romances is because this is just me. I feel like so many romances only really they only really cover like the beginning of a relationship, and that's not necessarily something that I'm interested in. I think I'm just moved by different stages of love, and I would rather watch or read about a couple having to work through this really, really hard stuff to get to a place where they can move forward. And I think that this book just does it excellently. And yeah, and it got to a place where like really serious things happen. Like, Castile made a lot of horrible mistakes, and yes, he was twisted by his situation into doing so and thought that he was doing his best for like his country. He thought that he was like stopping a war, but like he really truly hurt someone in the process, and for him to have to actually like confront that, and Poppy to have to like forgive him for that, while they both are able to take care of each other and their own traumas and move forward with this, was brilliant. I loved it. I loved seeing it. And they got to a place where you realize they're like what's called heartmates in this world, where they're soulmates in this world. And they get to a point where they get married near the end, and I was pretty satisfied. I thought they were in a place where they could move forward with their relationship, and that was very, very satisfying. You do also learn more about the world. You get teased information about the gods that are doing things in the background. In this series, the gods that do exist in this world are all asleep. You don't know why yet in this book, but they're asleep, and and things with them are happening in the background, and you start to learn a lot more about them. You get some really important characters. A lot of Castile's guards are kind of featured throughout the book. Delano is one I really love, and he's a Wolven, by the way, because the Atlanteans are bonded with werewolves, essentially. And Delano's one of them. Emil is one. Niall's one. Can't really think of anybody else. I think that's it. You meet Kieran, who is Castile's longest friend, who's basically his brother, and like the bond between Castile and Kieran is so strong and multi-layered, and Kieran himself is such a phenomenal character. You also meet Kieran's sister Venetta, who I also really love. Just in general, I love her. And Kieran's dad, Jasper, who, again, I think he's hilarious, and also I love him. But yeah, like, again, he and Castile have so much history, and it's also really, really sweet to see Kieran start to accept Poppy, and you see how happy it makes him that Castile is finally finding happiness after everything he went through with Poppy. And really, it just goes to show how the two of them they didn't fix each other, but they did bring a light into the other's lives that they really, really needed, and it helped them get themselves out of their dark places. And that's another thing. Again, she portrays trauma so well in this series, and I think it's so nuanced and beautiful. And in the reveal at the end of this book about Poppy being a descendant of Nyktos, the god, who you learn much more about later with the queen, because you know that like any descendant of Nyktos is automatically just supersedes the crown and becomes the new ruler of Atlantia. Having her take off her crown at her feet was just, with Poppy having no idea what's going on yet, was also phenomenal. Excellent scene, excellent cliffhanger. It's excellent. I loved it. Great second book as well. And the next book was Crown of Gilded Bones, which I also adored, and this is the one where you actually learn a lot more about the gods. I didn't talk about him. There's a character named Alistair who there's a whole plot line that you learn about in like the first or second book, where Castile, Alistair is the advisor to the crown, who are like the king and queen are Castile's parents. And he just sucks. Honestly, like, he starts out being really, like, you think he's great, you think he really cares, you think he's a sweet old man, and then you just kind of learn he sucks. And he is just so subtly emotionally abuses Castile and Kieran and Poppy, and I hate it. He also you learn, like in the first or second book, Castile used to be dating his daughter, who, when his brother originally rescued Castile from being tortured by Ileana, she came along, and then when the time came, she freaked out. She saved herself, not his brother. She turned over Malik, Castile's brother, and Castile killed her. And honestly, what she did isn't necessarily viewed as like her being evil. It shows her as being scared. And I don't think Alistair is evil too, but he's a part of a cult. And at the beginning of this book, he knocks out everybody and then takes Poppy because he believes that he needs to kill the daughter of Nyktos because he believes that the gods are dangerous. And he's not entirely wrong about the things that he's saying, but he's also in a cult, and he kind of just gets to a point where he needs to be taken out. And I don't think that he's a bad character. I think that I can see how he was twisted to the point that he was, given what happened to him. Which he was bonded to Malik, who you do learn created the first Ascended, because it was born of love, where, and it happened in Atlantia. He was you think he was an Atlantean, and he created the first Ascended, and just more and more Ascended were made, and they went to Solus. You think that is what happened, but Alistair was his bonded Wolven. You also do realize at the end of this book that we actually know nothing about Malik, because everything we know about him, I think, comes from 3 entirely unreliable people. So I am really curious to see, because we haven't yet, what kind of a person Malik actually was. But needless to say, Alistair was in a cult. He tried to kill Poppy, he tried to hold her for ransom, and said he was doing it for the good of Atlantia, and we killed him because he needed to be taken out. He was too far gone. Also, this is where Castile ascends Poppy. She gets, she's like fatally wounded. And the scene where Castile ascends her is fantastic and really emotionally raw and real, and it's excellent. And then it starts the whole mystery of the entire book, because she doesn't ascend in the way that the vampires, the ascended, normally do. She still has a lot of control over who she is. She hasn't had to feed, but she is more powerful, and so they don't really know what happened to her, what she ascended into. And then it essentially comes into us kind of trying to get to know the Atlantean government. You meet Castile's parents, his mom and his dad. Who his dad I like, his mom I liked until the end of this book, and now I hate her with a burning passion. But I'll get to that in a minute. And then the rest of the book is essentially Poppy and Castile deciding, getting to a place where, one, they can rule Atlantia because they are the rightful rulers, as Poppy is the daughter of Nyctos and he is her consort husband. But also we try and figure out what actually happened to Poppy. And it's really good. I was constantly theorizing in this book. And the reveals at the end were just so phenomenal, where you learn that Ileana, she was actually Isbeth, who, whether I said this or not, was that first woman to be ascended, and Malik, who you thought was an Atlantean, was actually not an Atlantean at all. He was the son of Nyctos. So he is Poppy's uncle, because his brother is her father. And so you do learn that he ascended her into being like the opposite of Poppy, what Poppy is, and Poppy is actually like a primal god descended from Nyctos. And this whole series of reveals was, one, so shocking. Two, it was heartbreaking because Ileana, or Isbeth, killed Poppy's brother, and then took Castile. And then you also you learn that she was the first descendant, but you also learn that she was killed by Castile's mother, Alona, the queen that I hate, because Malik had cheated on Alona with Isbeth, and because she poisoned her, that is what caused Malik to ascend her. And then he made her flee after they had their son. He was going to protect their son that they had, and he wanted her to go and flee to Solis, and so she did, and then realized once Alona married Valin, the king, that Malik was who she believed was dead, or at least entombed, which is what he was, and her son died. And so I instantly hated Alona so much, and like Isbeth, Ileana, had felt kind of flat to me in the first two books, in most of this book, just because we didn't see her a lot, and so she seemed kind of like a caricature. But like in this moment, she was so humanized, and it does not change the fact that she is psychotic. But the scene was written so well. And the minute I found out what happened to her, I was just like, oh, no, no, no. And I still hate Alona for all of this. That she did, the lies that she told, that she was the reason both of her sons were imprisoned and tortured, and she could have stopped this, but didn't because of her ego. She also lied to her husband, who took, I think, more responsibility for all of what happened than she did in the next book. I hate her. But then the amazing thing happens is that Poppy figures out that she needs to go to Nyctos again and get the Draken to help her, and I love the Draken. They are basically like dragon-human hybrids, and I love them. They guarded Nyctos, and she uses them to help her go to war with Solis, and I love them. They were fun. Great book. So the last book is War of Two Queens. It is by far my favorite in the entire series. essentially, we're going to war with Solas. We have, we need to go and get Castile. It's like actually in Poppy and Castile's point of view, because obviously the two of them are separated and a lot is happening where he is and a lot where she is. He's being tortured for most of this book, which is quite sad, but I do really like Poppy coming into her role as the new queen. I like her stepping into it in what I think is a really realistic way. She had a lot thrown on her at once, and it isn't framed as if she's just able to go into it head on. I liked that. You also get my favorite characters of this entire series in this book. One is Reaver, who first I didn't really get, and then he just grew on me so hard by the end. I love just everything about him. He's so funny. I love his antagonistic relationship with Kieran. Yeah, I just love his antagonistic relationship with Kieran. I also love how, I don't know, he never wears clothes, and he like is always wearing a sheet because he doesn't know how to manifest clothes because he's still a Draken youngling. I like how he's ridiculous, but like when it counts, he really takes care of Poppy. I love him, okay? I love him. I also think that like Malik and Millie, who when you learn more about Malik and like what has happened to him and how he's like played this role for Isbeth and how he has been so twisted by this woman to a point that like I don't think he's evil at all, but he like hates himself so deeply that he doesn't think he's worthy of love. He thinks everyone will hate him. The reveal that you finally get where after they have gotten Castile and you learn that he was the one who staged the Craven attack because Isbeth had been just like talking to him for so long about how she was going to use her daughter to destroy the world. Like he like felt like he had to do something and then couldn't go through with it because he saw himself killing a child and couldn't do it, but her parents still died. And just the whole scene where he revealed that, and he is clearly so heartbroken. I was heartbroken for him and for Poppy and for Castile. I thought that was an excellent scene. I love his relationship with Millie, and I also love Millie. She is a revenant who are like the second born sons and daughters. And then you give them, I think you just give them blood and they become revenants, and they're like warriors that can't die. They're like undead almost. I love her as well. She's the reveal that she's Poppy's sister is also really heartbreaking, and you know that Poppy doesn't remember her, but yeah. I also thought that the finale scene in this book where you get this final battle where we go and find where Malik is entombed, and you realize that Isbeth herself has become so twisted to a point where she cries seeing him entombed because Alona entombed him, and then she goes and stabs him because in the end she couldn't bring herself to actually go and kill her daughters, and she loves them in her own twisted way. And like, no, that isn't enough. It will never be enough, but it just makes the whole situation so complicated. And I think that she was an astonishing villain. I loved her as a villain, and I am really excited for what the rest of the series has to bring post her death, because I believe there are 2 more Blood and Ash books, and I began the prequel series yesterday, so I'm like at the beginning of the first book of the prequel series about Seraphina and Niktos. Sorry, that was my dog. Sorry, sweetie. Seraphina and Niktos, and I like them so far. So yeah. And I won't spend a lot of time talking about the last one. It's Soul of Ash and Blood. It's basically Poppy goes into stasis because she needs to complete the culling. And while she's in stasis, Castile just talks to her about their love story. It's kind of like a notebook-like setup, and it's really good. Honestly, you get to it's a really chill book. Like in the middle of the series, like clearly it's kind of there to get some stuff in place, but you give Castile's point of view from the first book to kind of just give it a little more oomph. And I think it really worked. I loved the book. Again, my favorite characters in this entire series are Malik and Millie. I think that they are so complicated. I think that they are so understated, and I'm so invested in everything that happens to them in the series now. Because I also just feel for them the most. I feel like they've been through the most of any of the main characters, and I love them. So I loved all the scenes where they were together. I feel like it felt really realistic that Castile was so angry at his brother, because for a long time, and it makes it really clear within this book, that the only thing that was getting him out of bed in the morning was the idea of bringing his brother home. So when he saw that the situation was different than what he originally thought — Millie's his heartmate, by the way. I don't think I said that. They're together. I don't think I said that because I just keep on rambling. But, yeah, you see that he's there to take care of Millie because he loves her so much. And then you also realize in this book that Millie doesn't even know they're heartmates, because Malik, because of the way that Isbeth has twisted him and made him hate himself, he himself thinks that no one can possibly love him. So he, in his own mind, thinks that Millie hates him, even though she clearly doesn't. And you don't see any of this get resolved, but this is like why I'm so invested in them. I want them to get past all of this. And I don't think there's anything necessarily for them to get past. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is so much baggage of the time they spent under Isbeth's thumb, but yeah, they've been through a lot, and I know they need to get through it, and it's going to look different than with Poppy and Castile, but, you know, yeah, it's really sweet. And I liked seeing them make up finally. I liked them like having to hash it out. It felt realistic, why Castile was so mad at him. And then it just felt like it wasn't all better. There's still shit between the two of them that they need to work out, but I feel like it felt emotionally something settled, and I liked the way she wrote it. Again, I think that she just writes character relationships and traumas and character growth so realistically, and that's just one thing I really love about this series. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I'm sure I didn't make much sense in this video, but again, school starts next week, and I'm in lesson planning and classroom setup and back to school stress mode, so I'm just gonna ramble. That's who I am right now. But thank you for watching. If you watched this far, I needless to say, loved this series so much. Please tell me if you've read it. Again, romantasy doesn't always work for me, and I think this one is absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. I loved it. So yes, tell me more if you would like to read it or have read it in the comments. I thank you for watching. Bye. I also forgot to say, Willa Collins starts out as a gag, and then in the third book shows up and is absolutely a badass woman. And I love every bit of her. I'm tired and don't want to go into the rest of it, but I felt remiss if I didn't say that I love Willa Collins. So yeah, thank you. Bye.